Welcome, everyone, to the Business English Career Playbook. This is your space to practice speaking and listening to business English with conversations that are relevant and engaging. We're tackling important topics today that will boost your professional toolkit. And hey, if you're enjoying this, do us a favor and subscribe. It's the best way to keep the learning going. Leadership without emotional intelligence is like trying to drive a car blindfolded. You might get somewhere, but you'll probably crash along the way. Recent studies show that leaders with high EQ drive 20% higher team performance and reduce turnover by up to 40%.
Those numbers are fascinating, and they really highlight why this isn't just about being nice. It's about bottom-line results. What exactly makes emotional intelligence so powerful in leadership?
Well, it comes down to 5 key components that work together like a well-oiled machine. Think of self-awareness as the engine, self-regulation as the brakes, motivation as the fuel, empathy as the navigation system, and social skills as the steering wheel. When they're all working together, you've got a leader who can take their team anywhere.
That's such a clear way to break it down. Could you share a real-world example of how these components play out in practice?
I witnessed this fascinating situation at a tech company where 2 different leaders handled the same crisis, a major project failure. The first leader immediately went into blame mode, creating this ripple of fear throughout the team. The second leader, who had high EQ, gathered everyone together, acknowledged the emotional impact, and turned it into a learning opportunity. The difference in outcomes was dramatic.
That's really powerful. How did those different approaches affect the team's long-term?
The team under the high EQ leader actually came back stronger. They developed 3 innovative solutions within the next quarter because they felt safe taking risks. Meanwhile, the other team became risk-averse, and their productivity dropped by almost 30%. Here's what's really interesting, though. Research shows that teams under emotionally intelligent leaders are 67% more likely to share new ideas.
Those metrics really drive home the point. What about developing these skills? I imagine many leaders might feel overwhelmed trying to improve their emotional intelligence.
Well, here's the good news. Studies from the Harvard Business Review show that leaders can increase their EQ by up to 25% through dedicated practice. It starts with what I call the emotional audit, spending 2 weeks tracking your emotional responses to different situations and their impact on others.
That's such a practical approach. What other specific strategies have you seen work well?
One particularly effective technique is the perspective rotation exercise. When facing a challenging situation, consciously examine it from 3 different viewpoints: yours, your team's, and an objective observer's. Leaders who practice this regularly show a 40% improvement in their empathy scores within just 3 months.
Those are impressive results. How does this kind of emotional intelligence translate to remote or hybrid work environments?
That's where it gets really interesting. Recent data shows that leaders with high EQ actually perform 50% better in virtual environments because they're more attuned to subtle communication cues. They're also more likely to create structured check-ins that address both professional and emotional needs.
Speaking of communication, how do emotionally intelligent leaders handle difficult conversations differently?
They follow what I call the 3A framework: acknowledge, analyze, act. They acknowledge emotions first, analyze the underlying causes, then act with empathy. Studies show this approach leads to 75% more positive outcomes in conflict resolution compared to traditional problem-solving approaches.
Those are compelling statistics. What final advice would you give to leaders looking to enhance their emotional intelligence?
The key is consistent, intentional practice. Start with small wins, maybe focusing on active listening for 1 week, then moving to emotional regulation the next. Research indicates that leaders who spend just 15 minutes daily on EQ development see measurable improvements within 6 to 8 weeks. Remember, emotional intelligence isn't just about being more empathetic. It's about creating high-performing teams that can navigate any challenge.
That really brings it all together. Any final thoughts on where emotional intelligence in leadership is headed?
Looking ahead, Emotional intelligence is becoming even more crucial. With AI and automation transforming workplaces, the human elements of leadership, understanding emotions, building trust, fostering creativity, these are becoming the real competitive advantages. Leaders who master emotional intelligence won't just survive these changes, they'll thrive in them. And with that, we've reached the end of our session. A huge thank you for joining me on the Business English Career Playbook. Your commitment to practicing your English is fantastic. If you're enjoying the journey, please hit that subscribe button.